Tell us a little about the Youth Decide 2019.
Okay, the Youth Decide is a bold step to mobilize young professionals, leaders and entrepreneurs, because of course statistics shows that many young professionals do not go to the polls, so they don't contribute to the outcome of the elections. If we take a quick look at 2015 elections, where only 29 million Nigerians voted. Out of 101 million that were eligible to vote, only 29 million voted, and only 68.8 million registered. So that put together means 72 million people never voted, and that represents the silent majority. It's also on record that only 15.4 million people decided who became the president. So we looked at that and said, okay, 25% of people deciding for the rest of Nigerians, it's not good enough. And the funny aspect of it is that many of those persons that actually went to vote are either maybe associated with any of those parties, or maybe they were bribed to vote, they were given some money. But when you look at those young professionals who actually represent the future of this nation, they do not go to the polls. So we say, okay, let's engage these people, correct that impression that young people have, like someone come up and say, well, I'm apolitical, you know, and I've not had anything so funny as that. And I tell people, if you are not political, then you are hypocritical. Because how can you say you don't have interest in what decides who emerges as a leader? And the leaders, they make the policies that guide every aspect of our lives. So what we're trying to do on that platform is to mobilize young leaders, professionals, right, and entrepreneurs to change the narrative, because the normal basic thing that comes to the mind when you think of young people as having to do with elections is thuggery, snatching a ballot box and all the rest. But then there is the untold story of young people. And that is the fact that many young Nigerians are actually very successful.
So what brought your focus to this young?
Okay, to the young people, to this dimension of young people.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, like as a young Nigerian who is doing very well and have capacity, you know, by God's grace, just a few days ago, I marked my 34 years birthday, right? And I've been privileged to grace various platforms and also succeed in my business. So when I get to like some platforms and young people are referred to as miscreants and rascals, I beg to be different, because I'm a young Nigerian and I'm making a difference in my community. And I know so many other young Nigerians feel that way. So what we are trying to do first is to write the story of about young Nigerians. Not every young Nigerian should fall within that narrative. And then number two, those of them who are not doing well should be the one that should take the lead when you are talking about, because like let me give you an instance. If you come to like maybe National Youth Council of Nigeria, the range of people that are leading there, like some of them still fall within the picture of the ideal politician we have in Nigerian situation, the career politician. Maybe you see a young person, he doesn't have a work, and he's leading other people. He's claiming to be maybe the state chairman of Nigeria Youth Council. So you see that these things ought not to be so, because it's either you have a career or you don't have a career. There's nothing like maybe someone trying to make out a career out of politics.
Interesting. So what's unique about the way young professionals think politically? What issues do you think they care about?
Yeah, well, of course, like looking at it now, because when you think of the way young professionals look at politics, in Nigeria on certain, I would say that many of them have lost their interest, because the things they are expecting from politics, they are not getting it. First, sound reasoning. There are policies you would expect that leaders should make. But when you begin to hear some things coming up from the seat of power, you know, you begin to wonder what kind of persons are these. And then they begin to feel, well, this government is not for us. This people is not for us. We are not connected. Because as a young person, you care about things like maybe power. You want to enjoy electricity, right? You want to like have power to do work at any time you want to do that, even if it's in the middle of the night. And of course, like in this ICT generation, right? You want to like power your system anytime and stuff like that. You want to also like have the power advantage to grow your SME, grow your business, and also like to operate optimally as a professional. But if the power is not there, right, then you cannot function optimally as a young professional. So that's a problem. And then when you now also look at like the aspect of social welfare, right? Good roads, access to markets, government policies that has to affect the business. Because like for instance, like let me give an instance from the eastern part of Nigeria. Like about 3 years ago, when the World Bank did an evaluation on the indices of doing businesses, ease of doing businesses in Nigeria, comparing various states. You know, the eastern states scored very low. A situation where you can open a shop, and the next thing business premises, next thing consumer protection, next thing this, and it's all saying one government. You understand? And you begin to wonder, is the government for the people or the people for the government? So it's a challenge. So when a young person says that it's more or less like, well, as a young professional, all I need to do, mind my business, mind myself, do the much I can do. And then when government come attacking, come knocking, I can bring out from the little and settle them and mind my own business. You know, a typical reflection of that, like when we had the Southeast press conference / youth symposium, you know, a lady who read accounting and was already on her path becoming a chartered accountant, she said something. She said, well, she knows Nigeria can never work. Now all she needs to do is to work out things for herself, become chartered, have a good life for herself. She's content. So that's the way many young professionals think, because they have lost confidence in the system.
You talked about power, which is quite a major issue that concerns young people, unemployment also, and the cost of living, access to infrastructure facilities. How has these issues, how have they shaped the views of young people as far as the economy is concerned? Yeah,
of course. Like when you know, in this internet age, where like you can sit here like tour any city you want to, like tour in the world, and probably when you have some of your contemporaries return back to Nigeria, and you ask what about the life situation, what about the issue of employment and stuff like that? How are those who are employed in that country? Is there any social package for them and stuff like that? When you get to hear things like that, you just want to imagine like, my, are you really sure we have a government? Are you really sure we have a country? And all the rest. Because honestly, for anyone that have traveled outside the country, I have, right? Now, anytime you, even if it's like maybe African countries you've gone to, where things are working, where they have system in place that is working, anytime you return to Nigeria airport, like somehow there is this sadness you feel inside of you, right? And another thing again is like sometimes like I've been privileged to visit the villa a couple of times, the presidential villa, right? When you see a great disconnect between the led and the leaders, you know, these things ought not to be so. Because how do you really now feel what the people are feeling? You know, maybe a situation, maybe if the president want to fly or the governor want to travel, you don't even fly to the regular routes. You know, I could remember like one terrible experience I had one time. And I told myself, I said, well, anytime I want to travel, I need to fly. You know, somewhere like around Bini, you know, the road very terrible. Our vehicle were there, we're literally pushing out the vehicle. But I'm not sure the federal government is aware of that, you know, because sometimes the reports and the feedbacks they get is not a true reflection. So for any young professional who is abreast with what is happening across the globe, and then look at what is happening, you just feel like, well, I don't have any government. So all I need to do is to be a republic of my own. Because most Nigerians share this mindset that every home in Nigeria, every average home is a republic. You supply your light, your water, everything, food and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, the government now, it's now a typical of robbers who come to demand for what they did not merit, who come to like lay claim, asking you to pay for what they don't want. You understand? And why people actually struggle like to pay tax in this country. Listen to me, when people begin to view government and the issue of governance as a social contract, then you don't need to force anybody to respond positively to such issues.
That's quite true. You talked about the disconnect.
Yeah.
Why that disconnect? Why doesn't the gerontocrats, I mean the older generations, like for example the current president, why are they not really connecting with the young people? And do you see the young people taking back power come 2019? Because a lot of young folks are coming out.
Yeah, sure. The simple truth is, let me state emphatically, I'm one of those that believe that this current administration will not continue come 2019, right? We'll have more vibrant young people who are coming to limelight and who by God's grace come 2019 will saddle the seat of power and, take this country from where it is to where it ought to be, right? Issue of government should be a social contract. Another thing I want to say, which is very important to every young person, because we've seen young people advance the cost of entertainment, advance the cost of sports, and if young people can begin to have conversations around the issue of politics and governance, we can also take it far. And that means, like for instance, like sometime last year, during the time of Big Brother Niger, could see somebody like send a WhatsApp message, please vote for this person, I don't want him to be out of the house and stuff like that. If young people can do that, rally around people they believe in, support them, sponsor them, right? Then you are sure that when they get in there, it will not be a contract between that person and one big godfather. It will truly be a contract between the person and those that place the person there. Because one thing I always tell people, I say in Nigeria, if I'm to assess and score democracy, I will score democracy 33.3%. What is the rationale for such a score? If democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, now is government of the people in Nigeria, sure, it's the people's mandate. But by the people and for the people, it's not right. Because when you talk about by the people, now even if maybe we want to agree that maybe the outcome of 2015 election that President Buhari truly won, but what percent of Nigeria decided he's becoming the president? You understand? And then for the people, to what extent, how many policies has maybe this current government enacted to advance the common good of that man on the street? So I mean a whole lot needs to be done.
Moving forward,
yeah.
How do you see the young people actually changing or deciding 2019 elections? I mean, is this a generation that will be able to break that gridlock based on the fact that many of the gerontocrats, so to say, are saying that young people lack the experience in order to be able to wield power? I mean, for example, look at the hydra-headed issues that Nigeria is being confronted now. The herdsmen killing and bloodletting that cuts across the nation. How would they have handled it differently, and how do you think they will be able to take power come 2019?
Yeah, and let me say at this point, not just every young person. You understand? We are talking about the right people. The right people. People who have good track record. You see, there is something we don't do in this country, and that's also an indication of a failed system. But if we can get it right, you are not going to build reputation based on what you will do, but based on what you've done in time past, your track records. And Nigerians have not been meticulous when you talk about spotting people's track record. In America, if somebody, you may not know how good or bad you are until you declare to run for any political position. People will not only go back to maybe where you were born, exactly. But review some things. In fact, when you just want to know how your record is, just declare for, you understand? But here, all those things don't count. What we look at for, and sometimes when I stay in some fora and people are talking about, we engage leaders, looking out for their manifestos and debates, and I say, what other best manifestos have you not had before in time past? Are you looking for those with sweet mouths, but no track records? We should be looking about this guy. Does he have elements of criminality in him? What have he done? Like for instance, like if we are really like maybe like to assess like somebody like President Buhari before he became president. You know, I came across an article like someone saying, okay, you want to advance the good of the whole nation. How many schools have you built? Maybe as someone who have been a one-time president of the country. How many schools have you built in your local community? How many of those things, maybe healthcare services and things you've done to even advance the cause of your people in your very community before you talk about the whole society? Because it is said that charity begins at home. So Nigerians should be, we should be meticulous to the point of looking at the track of those persons that are involved. And if you look at a young person who have clean records, he has done businesses with people, and there is no trace of, him defrauding people and stuff. Because what power simply does is to amplify weaknesses. Whatever weakness you have, just imagine like if you have the capacity to steal from a home, steal from a community. When we magnify it, it becomes a nation. You understand? So that's what actually happens. I tell people, If like I give you like maybe 1,000 naira and you can safely keep it, right? I give you 100,000, it still doesn't change anything. If I give you 1 million and you steal 1,000 from it, then the issue is that probably you felt when it was 1,000, if you steal, it will be noticed. But if it's as a matter of principle, my dear, criminal is not a criminal. Because don't forget, with all these stealings that go on in this nation, there are two questions I've always asked. First, for all those that have stolen, that stole from this nation, right? There is a clean records stating what anybody stole, including the kobo that is involved. Now ask me, who are those that are keeping those records? We still have accountants that can be trusted. And when you also, the funny one announce, like, maybe when you hear things like that on daily basis, Nigeria loses 400,000 barrels of oil, crude oil, right? And then you ask who is keeping those records, who is carefully calculating. So one of the things I stress on that we must look at it, track records of people, whether it is young or old, and then we should be able to look at capacity. Once we see these two things, then we are sure we're on the right track.
That's quite interesting. In the last communique you released, you talked about consistent reorientation and enlightenment campaigns for citizens, especially the youths, will help to improve the nation's value system. How do you intend to achieve this?
Okay. Like currently, we partner with the Yearly Network, right? Okay. You know, part of the course they have, which is free for every young person, understanding elections and civic responsibility. You know, it is packaged in such a way to get every young professional thinking. Because the simple truth is that, like, just like one of the legal luminaries who is at the forefront of this particular campaign, you know, I was in the same vehicle with her, traveling from Enugu to Lagos, and we started discussing. Now, when it got to issue of politics, he said I should not mention that. And I said, well, I should be surprised. So as a lawyer, what else do you want to do with our politics? And when we began to talk, just some few minutes, she was like, really, nobody have actually told her this, that she just felt that maybe as a professional, nothing concerns her with politics. You understand? Yeah. So I think there is that aha moment, just that sparkling light of knowledge that you need to share on the part of every professional. And everybody will now see where this thing really concerns me. So it's all about paint the picture of what the future of Nigeria could be and how the issue of governance has affected every aspect of our life. And then how, as a professional, in his or her own little ways, can make impact. And then with that, you are sure you have all the young professionals on the right path.
Do you have any political ambitions?
No, at the moment. You know, even though like before now, you understand, and I was joking about it and saying, okay, like I could remember posting on Facebook, if you have anything that will stop me from running, you know, going for Senate in 2019, declare now or otherwise keep your mouth shut. And I posted that, and you know, several people were like, we know you are good to go and stuff like that. But on second ground again, I came on one certain time and I told them, I said, well, the funny thing is that many of you who are saying you're already there, don't have voters card. You know, it was also a strategy to tell people, I say, well, it's not just all about willing it. Maybe you want this person to be there. It's all about having that voters card, right, in your hand and ensuring your votes count at the end of the day. You understand? Because sometimes people see how powerful politicians are, but they don't see how helpless politicians are. They can't rig without people. They can't snatch ballot. They can't write results without people. And the funny thing is that you can't even rig where you are not popular. You understand? Because just imagine, like, maybe if in one polling booth, you just have only one person saying, say Buhari, or maybe say this person or the other person. And then you have so many other persons who are there supporting another candidate. You are sure you can rig in that pool, provided they stay to the end and ensure, which is part of their civic responsibility, not just to cast vote and go, but stay to the end, right? If need be, capture the counting of the results and stuff like that. That's how, like, there is no development without responsibility, no accountability without responsibility. The problem in Nigeria is that most of the time, the citizens are not responsible enough as we should. Part of responsibilities, stay there, if you want your result to count, certainly not in the home. Stay there as they are counting the vote, you are counting with them and stuff like that. You are sure that even if they rig in any other part, not in the polling unit where you are, and if you can have other good citizens, do that in every polling unit where they are, you are sure nothing will go wrong.
Interesting. Away from the issue of youth's perspective. I'd like to get your perspective on, there has been so much clamor for restructuring of the country. What's your view on this?
It is imminent. And I think if this country must move forward, we must restructure.
What kind of restructuring are we talking?
You know, of course, like there have been several perspectives about the word restructuring, you understand? But I think the first and foremost, which I think is the wisest, because in any true federal state, things must be truly decentralized. The power, the center is very powerful and strong. So making the states weak, you understand? There should be that regional resource control, which will give rise for competitions. That is what we need as a nation. And also part of the restructuring is that the security structure of this country is lopsided. How can the federal government in this modern day still be controlling the police, controlling the army and all the rest? And if anything happened, that the so-called chief security of the state supposed to take blame for everything, we still call the president. I mean, is it done anywhere? The governor will just be like general overseer. I'm not the chief security officer of the state. So I mean, it's completely out of the place. So let's restructure in the control of resources. Let's also restructure in the control of security. It's very important.
Finally, let me just ask you this. I mean, some have clamored for the scrapping of the National Assembly. Okay. What's your view on this?
Scrapping of National Assembly? No. Of course, that won't mean progress. What I think is let the right people be there. Because at the moment, we'll have the wrong people. Because if like somebody like Senator Sani could suggest, you know, for a rebate on the pay, on the package that senators go, why wouldn't others endorse? You know, just like recently in Canada, something happened. 700 doctors were protesting. You understand? Because their salaries were increased. And they say, well, the country was not due for that at the moment. You know, people are selfless in such climes. But here, in a nation where like the poverty level is so high, and then someone is among the highest paid globally, and you are content with that, I mean, does it make any sense? When you are receiving more than senators in UK, you understand, some other developed far better nations than yours, and at the expense of your people. It's not as if to say maybe when you get that money, you remember your constituencies and the people you are representing. And another thing again, which I think Nigerians need to grow up to realize and appreciate, and one power that need to return back to the people is the power to recall back those people to their constituencies. If they are not, because you can't tell me you are representing me and all the time you are in Abuja, and after 4 years you come again with the usual magic, share money and everybody. I mean, sometimes when I come to think, I say, what is, you understand what I'm saying? I can't just understand. Is it a magic and all the rest? And I think it's simply because the silent majority has always accepted to be sleeping. Because otherwise, why would somebody who have not delivered in any regard on the dividend of democracy, the person will come again, wave his magic band and get back there to represent himself and the family? I mean, these things must stop, for crying out loud.
What's your final message to young people who have actually historically been tough to motivate, especially when it comes to voting?
Well, to every young person that is out there, this country belongs to us. You know, there are two things I've heard in recent time in some fora I've been part of. First, someone asked an older Nigeria, why do you people get interested in always discussing about a future that you not be part of? This future truly belongs to young people, and we must all embrace courage and ensure that we fight to build the Nigeria of our dream. And the second aspect, if it is not now, when else? Everything about change begins with us adjusting, building the needed capacity, being a good example of the future that you think Nigeria deserves. And with that, someday, I know, just like the same way too many of us like could line up in American embassies and we are denied visas anyhow by other countries. I look forward to a time that the reverse will be the case, because Nigeria truly is destined to be a great nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwuma Okenwa.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate your insightful analysis.